edition of Gold Cup Today. I'm Samantha Yarock here with Simon Borg. And well, Simon, we finally made it, the last week of the Gold Cup. We had a big weekend of quarterfinal games. And as we know, these single elimination games usually come down to one or two plays being the deciding factors. So take us through, what were the turning points in these games?
Well, they started in Atlanta with the doubleheader there, Panama versus Cuba. And Cuba were surprisingly in this game until the 58th minute red card to Ariel Martinez. And Cuba not only down a man, but they lost their best player, arguably. And from that point on, Panama, the goals just kept flowing. It was easy for them. Not so easy for Mexico, though, who waited until the 84th minute for their goal, which decided it against Trinidad and Tobago. Raul Jimenez with the strike off a great cross from Miguel Layún. He's the MVP for Mexico, in my opinion, the right back for Mexico. But the turning point in this game to me came in the first half. After 10 minutes, Trinidad's Andre Bucco with a great shot, and Jonathan Orozco, Mexico's goalkeeper, has to come up with a phenomenal save to keep that one out. If they put that one in, that game takes a whole new complexion. You have to finish your chances in these knockout rounds if you want to make it through, and no one knows that better than Alvaro Saborío, the forward for Costa Rica and Real Salt Lake. Look at what he found at his feet in the second minute, and he couldn't put it on frame. That was a horrible miss, and it only get worse for Saborío from that point on. 62nd minute. Look at that chance he had, but Dionisio Escobar, the goalkeeper from Honduras, comes up with the save. And so Saborío, who already has a little bit of a strained relationship with the Costa Rican fan base for his lack of finishing in big moments in past games, now the fans in Costa Rica, they can point to this game, and that will certainly fuel the criticism.
Well, Simon, one MLSer who had a game-changing moment he's going to be happy about, Eddie Johnson, subbing in for Chris Wondolowski, scoring 15 seconds later. That, to me, turning point of that game.
And you just don't see that happen in soccer that often. But to me, the big play of the game came from Nick Rimando. A double save on both Blanco and then Seren. And that, to me, if El Salvador scores in that spot that early in the game and they get the equalizer, to me, the house comes down in Baltimore, because the Salvadorans outnumbered the Americans in the stands. And on the field, they were playing with a lot of energy. I think the game takes on a whole new complexion if they score there.
All right, but Simon, you have to give it to the U.S. offense. They've been on fire. They scored 5 goals last night. How are they doing this?
Well, I think in that game specifically against El Salvador, the U.S. just committed numbers forward. And that attacking mentality that Jurgen Klinsmann has asked his team to embrace, you saw it against El Salvador. They didn't care what El Salvador were going to respond with. They weren't afraid of El Salvador. They just said, let's throw numbers forward. So you saw Beckerman, you saw Mix Diskerud, you saw the fullbacks, everyone attacking. And when you get that many numbers, the goals are going to come.
Well, let's take a listen from Jurgen Klinsmann, Landon Donovan, and Eddie Johnson to hear what they have to say about this team's offense.
What we're trying to do, we're trying to catch up with the big teams in the world. And that's, if you kind of raise the bar, it's all about speed. Speed, you know, I'm not talking about physical speed, I'm talking about mental speed, passing speed, you know, about compactness, about going both ways, the same way, you know, with every 11 players involved, defensively, offensively. You know, and that's what we're working on. And I think that you see that players trying to really keep the tempo high. They're trying to move the ball around quickly, 1-2 touches, and hopefully creating then chances, which they did from early moment on.
The beauty of it is we can score and create chances in a lot of different ways. Obviously, our set pieces have been very good. When we move the ball quickly and break teams down through the middle of the field, we've had chances that way. We've done a very good job of getting chances wide and getting crosses in the box. Counter-attacks, we're getting chances, so we're scoring in all different ways, and I think for a team to defend against that for 90 minutes is going to be really difficult.
Everything's starting to click, and you know, we're still learning, we're still growing, but you know, like I said, very proud to be a part of this team.
Well, the U.S. moving on to the semifinals while El Salvador is out. But one bit of silver lining for this team would have to be the emergence of your favorite player, Rodolfo Zelaya. Well, let's head to Baltimore to hear from Andrew Wiebe on Fito and some of the other standout players from this tournament.
Thanks. Of course, talent on display here in Baltimore. We all know about those MLS products on the U.S. national team, but plenty more potential targets to go around here for any MLS scouts in attendance. Here are my 3 guys that made an impact in today's matches. Number 1, Rodolfo Zelaya, striker for the Salvadoran national team. U.S. fans very familiar with him ahead of this game. He was the lone threat, got the lone goal in this one, a cheeky chip down the middle on that penalty attempt. You look at DC United, they've had experience with Salvadorans before. He could be the guy that helps get their attack off the ground. Number 2, for Costa Rica, Giancarlo Gonzalez. He is a 25-year-old center back, currently at Vålerenga in Norway. Had a free transfer in July of 2012. MLS teams could have jumped then. They didn't, but he is a solid center back, can also play defensive midfield. Strong, powerful, fast on the ball, perhaps a target down the line a la Roy Miller returning from Scandinavia. And finally, for Honduras, Osman Chavez, an absolute beast for the Honduran national team in this victory against the Ticos. He would be a great target for an MLS team, though he would probably be pricey considering he has a 5-year deal with Wisła Krakow. 2 years into that one, not likely to head to MLS anytime soon, but surely some teams salivating over him. That's all we have here in Baltimore. Back to New York.
Well, that's all we have for Gold Cup today. I'll be hitting the road for the semifinals and the finals, so be sure to stay tuned to MLSsoccer.com for all of the coverage on this year's Gold Cup.